In the midst of a chaotic world, where everyone seems to be vying for attention, there lies a profound strength in speaking less. It's a strength rooted not in weakness, but in control, wisdom, and purpose. Imagine navigating life with clarity, calmness, and a quiet confidence that doesn't need to be proclaimed. This is the essence of Stoicism, finding power in restraint, silence, and thoughtful action. In today's journey, we will uncover the 10 traits of people who speak less and explore how these traits can transform your life, helping you rise above the noise and chaos. But before we delve into these traits, let me ask you this. What would your life look like if you embraced silence more often? How much more could you observe, learn, and master by simply holding your tongue and listening? If these questions stir a sense of curiosity in you, stay with me as we dive deep into the art of speaking less and the wisdom of Stoicism. 1. They value deep listening over talking. In a world that prizes quick responses, loud opinions, and constant chatter, the value of deep listening often gets lost. But people who speak less understand that real wisdom comes not from talking, but from listening. Think about the last conversation you had. Were you truly present, or were you just waiting for your turn to speak? Stoicism teaches us the importance of being present in every moment, and listening is one of the most powerful ways to practice this presence. When we listen deeply, we aren't just hearing words, we're understanding the person in front of us. We're paying attention to their emotions, their intentions, and the subtleties that others might miss. But how many of us truly listen like this? Ask yourself, when was the last time you fully immersed yourself in a conversation without the urge to interrupt? What would change if you approached every dialogue with the goal of understanding rather than responding? Listening deeply allows us to engage with others on a more meaningful level, and in doing so, we foster relationships built on trust, empathy, and mutual respect. The power of silence in this sense lies in its ability to create space for others to express themselves fully, and space for us to absorb and reflect. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Deep listening is an art, a discipline that not only sharpens our understanding of others, but also deepens our understanding of ourselves. But this isn't just about interpersonal relationships. In the realm of Stoicism, listening is also a tool for personal growth. By quieting our minds and tuning into the world around us, we gain insights that can guide us toward wisdom. We learn to distinguish between what is trivial and what is essential, between superficial noise and profound truth. The more we listen, the more we are able to align ourselves with our values, and this alignment is at the core of living a Stoic life. In the end, those who value listening over talking recognize that silence is not a void. It's a wellspring of knowledge and clarity. They understand that through silence, we create the space for reflection, for learning, and for growth. Do you believe that listening could transform the way you engage with the world? What if your next conversation wasn't about what you were going to say, but about truly understanding the other person? Let's move to the next trait, where we'll explore how silence, when used strategically, can be a powerful tool in your interactions with others. 2. They use silence as a strategic tool. Silence can be unnerving for some, especially in moments when they expect a response. But for those who have mastered the art of speaking less, silence is more than a pause. It's a strategy. Imagine being in a heated negotiation or a difficult conversation. The tension is rising, words are being exchanged rapidly, and emotions are running high. What would happen if, instead of responding immediately, you chose to remain silent? In that silence, something remarkable occurs. The other person is left wondering. They're thrown off balance, questioning your next move, unsure of what you're thinking. This uncertainty shifts the dynamic, placing you in control without uttering a single word. The Stoics understood the power of this silence well, using it as a way to observe, reflect, and plan their next action with calmness and clarity. But silence isn't just about creating mystery, it's also about creating space. Space to think, to analyze, and to let emotions settle before reacting. In our fast-paced world, we are often pressured to respond immediately, but how often do those quick responses lead to regret? How often do we speak out of anger, frustration, or fear, only to wish we had waited a moment longer? Silence, when used strategically, allows us to regain control over our emotions, to pause and consider the best course of action. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control external events, but we can control how we respond to them. Silence gives us that control. It gives us the opportunity to reflect on what's within our power and to choose a response that aligns with our values. When we choose silence, we choose to act with intention rather than react impulsively. Think of a time when you felt pressured to speak, perhaps in a meeting, a debate, or a personal conflict. What if, instead of speaking, you had paused? What clarity might you have gained in that moment of silence? The truth is, silence allows us to see the situation from a broader perspective. It creates distance between ourselves and the emotions of the moment, giving us the clarity to respond wisely rather than hastily. And here's something powerful. While silence unsettles others, it grounds us. In that quiet space, we can observe more clearly, make decisions more thoughtfully, and approach the situation with the calmness that Stoicism encourages. By remaining silent, we aren't retreating. We are positioning ourselves to act with greater precision and wisdom. So, the next time you find yourself in a challenging situation, remember the strategic power of silence. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this moment of quiet? How can I use this pause to gain clarity and perspective? And most importantly, how can my silence help me act with stoic calm and composure? Silence, as a strategic tool, is not about avoiding conflict or manipulation. It's about creating space for thoughtful action. What if your next move wasn't spoken, but silently calculated? Let's now turn to a trait that's closely related to this idea of control, the strength that comes from being comfortable in solitude. 3. They are comfortable with solitude. For many, the idea of solitude can be unsettling. We live in a world where constant connectivity is the norm, where being alone can feel like being left behind. But for those who speak less, solitude is not something to be feared. It is something to be embraced. Solitude is where they find clarity, where they reconnect with themselves, and where they cultivate the inner strength that Stoicism so highly values. In solitude, we come face to face with our own thoughts. There's no noise to distract us, no external voices to influence us. But how often do we allow ourselves to experience true solitude? How often do we sit in silence without reaching for a phone, a distraction, or someone else's company? The Stoics believed that solitude was essential for reflection, for turning inward and understanding who we are beneath the surface of daily life. Marcus Aurelius himself spent much time in solitude, writing his famous Meditations as a way to reflect on his life, his actions, and his thoughts. In those quiet moments, he found wisdom, clarity, and peace. The same is true for us. Solitude offers us the space to reflect on our values, our choices, and our direction in life. It allows us to step away from the noise of the world and to listen to our own inner voice. But why is solitude so powerful? It's because, in those quiet moments, we strip away the distractions that cloud our judgment. We stop reacting to external pressures and start focusing on what truly matters to us. We begin to see our lives with a greater sense of perspective, and in that perspective, we find strength. For those who speak less, solitude is not just a momentary retreat, it's a practice of self-awareness. It's in these moments of quiet that they learn to trust themselves, to rely on their own inner wisdom, and to navigate life with a sense of calm and purpose. Solitude teaches them that they don't need constant validation from others, that their worth isn't defined by how much they're seen or heard. But solitude also challenges us. It forces us to confront the parts of ourselves that we might be avoiding, the doubts, the fears, the uncertainties. Yet it's in facing these aspects of ourselves that we grow stronger. The Stoics believed that true strength comes from within, and solitude is the forge where that strength is tempered. So I ask you, when was the last time you spent time in true solitude? When was the last time you allowed yourself to simply be without the distractions of the modern world? What insights might you discover if you embraced solitude as a practice in your life? Solitude is not isolation. It is connection to yourself, to your values, and to your inner strength. What if the quiet moments you avoid are the very moments that could bring you the most clarity and peace? Before we move on to the next trait, let me encourage you to stay with us through the rest of this video. The deeper we go into these traits, the more we uncover the profound impact silence and self-reflection can have on your life. The Stoic wisdom we are exploring can change how you navigate challenges, relationships, and your own internal dialogue. So, if you're finding value in these insights, stay with me as we continue. 4. They have a strong sense of self-control. Self-control is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, and it's no coincidence that people who speak less often exhibit a remarkable degree of self-mastery. In a world where impulsive reactions are commonplace, the ability to pause, reflect, and choose how to respond is a rare and powerful skill. But what does self-control really mean in the context of silence? For those who practice the art of speaking less, self-control is about mastering their own impulses. It's about recognizing that not every thought needs to be spoken, not every emotion needs to be expressed immediately. They understand that words, once spoken, cannot be taken back, and that speaking in haste often leads to regret. How many times have we said something in the heat of the moment, only to wish we had waited just a little longer before responding? The Stoics teach us that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can always control how we respond to them. This is where self-control comes into play. In moments of tension, frustration, or conflict, the Stoic way is to pause, to observe our own emotional state, and to choose a response that aligns with our deeper values. Silence is often the first step in this process. Think about the last time you were in an argument or a difficult conversation. How quickly did you feel the urge to defend yourself, to explain, or to retaliate? What would have happened if, instead, you had chosen silence? In that silence, you would have had the space to reflect, to calm your emotions, and to respond with clarity rather than reactivity. People who speak less understand that their silence is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It's a way of asserting control over their own emotions rather than allowing their emotions to control them. They know that by mastering their tongue, they are mastering themselves. But self-control isn't just about managing what we say. It's about managing how we think. The Stoics believed that our thoughts shape our reality, and by controlling our thoughts, we control our lives. Those who speak less often have a disciplined mind, one that isn't easily swayed by fleeting emotions or external pressures. Their silence is a reflection of their inner calm, a calm that comes from knowing that they are in control of themselves. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where you feel the urge to speak impulsively, ask yourself, what is within my control right now? How can I respond in a way that reflects my values rather than my emotions? By practicing self-control, we align ourselves with the Stoic virtue of temperance, finding balance in how we express ourselves. Self-control is a muscle that grows stronger with use. Each time we choose silence over impulsivity, we strengthen our ability to navigate life with calm and clarity. What if the moments you choose not to speak are the moments that define your true strength? Let's now explore another key trait: how people who speak less prioritize quality over quantity in their communication. 5. They prioritize quality over quantity in communication. In a world overflowing with words, those who speak less understand the power of choosing their words carefully. They prioritize quality over quantity, recognizing that what they say should have meaning, purpose, and impact. But how often do we speak just to fill the silence, to assert our presence, or to feel heard? How often do we say things that, upon reflection, add little to the conversation? For those who embrace Stoicism, words are not to be wasted. Every word is an opportunity to teach, to learn, to connect. But this opportunity is only valuable if our words carry weight. People who speak less have mastered the art of thoughtful communication, where each word is chosen with care and intention. They understand that the fewer words they use, the more each word stands out. It's not about saying more, it's about saying what matters. Imagine a conversation where every word you speak is meaningful. What would that feel like? How would it change the way others perceive you? In the Stoic tradition, words are seen as a reflection of our inner state. If we speak with clarity, wisdom, and restraint, it shows that we have cultivated those qualities within ourselves. But how do we ensure that our words have quality? It begins with mindfulness. Before speaking, ask yourself, is what I'm about to say necessary? Is it truthful? Is it kind? These are the questions that guide people who speak less. They don't speak to fill the silence or to dominate a conversation. They speak because they have something valuable to contribute. In prioritizing quality over quantity, they also avoid the pitfalls of gossip, empty chatter, and impulsive remarks. The Stoics were firm believers in the idea that we should avoid speaking ill of others and that our words should always aim to build, not destroy. By speaking less and speaking with intention, we ensure that our words contribute to the betterment of ourselves and those around us. But here's something even more powerful. When we speak less, we give others the opportunity to speak more. We create space in conversations for others to share their thoughts, their insights, their experiences, and in doing so, we foster deeper connections and greater understanding. People who speak less aren't just mindful of their own words, they are mindful of the impact their silence has on others. So, the next time you're about to speak, ask yourself, is this necessary? What value does it add? In choosing quality over quantity, you not only elevate your own communication, but also the conversations you're part of. Now, let me invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. How do you approach communication in your own life? Do you find that you speak more than you listen? Let's discuss how we can all prioritize quality over quantity in our words and embrace the Stoic way. Next, we'll explore how those who speak less cultivate inner peace through silence. 6. They cultivate inner peace through silence. In today's world, filled with constant noise and endless distractions, it's rare to find moments of true silence. But for those who speak less, silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's a refuge, a source of inner peace and clarity. Silence allows them to step away from the chaos and reconnect with themselves. But how many of us actively seek out moments of silence? And what might we discover about ourselves if we did? In Stoicism, inner peace is not something that comes from external circumstances. It is cultivated within, through practices of self-reflection, acceptance, and, yes, silence. The Stoics believed that in silence, we find the space to sift through the noise of the world, to separate what is within our control from what is not. Silence allows us to quiet the chatter of our minds and to focus on what truly matters. But what exactly does it mean to cultivate inner peace through silence? It means making a conscious choice to disconnect from the distractions around us, whether it's the constant ping of notifications, the demands of work, or the pull of social media, and to create moments of stillness in our day. These moments of silence are not about isolation, but about creating space for clarity and reflection. Think about it. How often do you spend your day reacting to external stimuli without taking a moment to pause and reflect? What would change in your life if you made time for silence, even for just a few minutes each day? People who speak less have mastered this practice. They know that in silence, they can process their thoughts, understand their emotions, and regain their sense of balance. The Stoics teach us that peace comes not from avoiding challenges, but from how we respond to them. And silence is often the first step in crafting a wise response. When we pause in silence, we allow ourselves to observe our thoughts and feelings without being swept away by them. This is the essence of Stoic inner peace, finding calm amidst the storm, not by controlling the storm, but by controlling how we weather it. Silence also helps us cultivate acceptance. When we're constantly speaking, we're often trying to assert control over situations or influence others. But when we embrace silence, we learn to accept that not everything requires our input or control. We learn to let go of what we cannot change and focus on what we can, our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. But how can you start cultivating inner peace through silence? It begins with intention. Find moments in your day where you can step away from the noise, perhaps in the early morning before the world wakes up, or in the evening when the day is winding down. In these moments, practice being still. Observe your thoughts without judgment. Breathe deeply. Allow yourself to simply be. What would happen if you made silence a daily practice? What clarity might you gain, and how might it change the way you navigate the world? As we move forward, let's explore how people who speak less focus on what's within their control, a key aspect of Stoicism that leads to a life of wisdom and calm. 7. They focus on what's within their control. One of the most powerful teachings of Stoicism is the idea of focusing only on what is within our control. For people who speak less, this Stoic principle is not just a belief, it's a practice that guides how they live and interact with the world. But how often do we, in our daily lives, waste energy on things that are beyond our control? Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control external events, but we can always control how we respond to them. This shift in perspective is liberating because it frees us from the stress and anxiety that comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. For those who speak less, this means choosing their words carefully, focusing on what they can contribute, rather than trying to control how others will react or respond. Imagine a situation where someone criticizes you. Your initial reaction might be to defend yourself, to argue back, or to try to change their opinion. But what if instead you focused only on what you can control, your own reaction? What if you chose silence instead of engaging in a pointless argument? People who speak less understand that their silence in such situations is an act of control. They are not ignoring the criticism. Rather, they are choosing not to waste energy on something they cannot change. Ask yourself, how often do you find yourself caught up in situations where you're trying to control others' thoughts, actions, or opinions? How would your life change if you focused solely on what is within your control, your own thoughts, actions, and reactions? For those who speak less, silence becomes a way of practicing this Stoic principle. In difficult conversations or confrontations, they choose not to react impulsively. They don't try to change the minds of others through forceful words. Instead, they focus on maintaining their own composure, on choosing responses that reflect their values, and on letting go of the outcome. This focus on what's within our control is not about passivity. It's about channeling our energy where it can have the most impact. on ourselves. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes not from changing the world around us, but from changing how we interact with it. And people who speak less embody this freedom in how they communicate. They don't feel the need to assert control over every conversation or to have the last word. They are content with controlling their own contribution and letting go of the rest. But how can you apply this Stoic principle in your own life? Start by recognizing what is within your control in any given situation. In a conversation, this might mean focusing on your tone, your words, and your demeanor, rather than trying to influence how others respond. In a challenging situation, it means focusing on how you choose to perceive and react to it, rather than on the outcome. So, what's within your control right now? How can you shift your focus away from external factors and toward what you can influence, your thoughts, actions, and responses? Now that we've explored the power of focusing on what's within our control, let's turn to another critical trait: humility. Those who speak less often show remarkable humility in their interactions, a key Stoic virtue. 8. They show humility in conversations. Humility is a virtue that is often overlooked in today's fast-paced, competitive world. Yet for people who speak less, humility is a defining trait, one that shapes how they approach conversations and interactions with others. But what does humility look like in practice, and why is it so important in the context of Stoicism? At its core, humility is about recognizing our own limitations. It's about understanding that we don't have all the answers, that we are not always right, and that there is always something to learn. For those who speak less, humility manifests in their willingness to listen more than they talk, to ask questions rather than make declarations, and to seek understanding rather than assert dominance. But how often do we approach conversations with humility? How often do we enter discussions with the mindset that we might learn something new, rather than with the goal of proving ourselves right? The Stoics believed that true wisdom comes from recognizing how little we actually know. By embracing humility, we open ourselves up to growth, learning, and deeper connections with others. Consider the last conversation you had. Were you more focused on making your point or on understanding the other person's perspective? People who speak less understand that humility in conversations is not about diminishing their own worth. It's about creating space for others to share their thoughts, their insights, and their experiences. In doing so, they cultivate more meaningful and respectful relationships. But humility is not just about listening, it's also about letting go of the need to always be right. In Stoicism, one of the key teachings is the idea of not allowing our ego to control us. People who speak less recognize that their worth is not tied to winning arguments or proving themselves. Instead, they find strength in their ability to learn, to admit when they don't know something, and to remain open to new ideas. This humility also leads to better decision-making. When we approach situations with a humble mindset, we are less likely to act out of pride or defensiveness. Instead, we make decisions based on wisdom, careful thought, and a willingness to consider other perspectives. In this way, humility is not just a virtue. It's a practical tool for navigating life with calm and clarity. But how do we cultivate humility in our conversations? It starts with self-awareness. Before speaking, ask yourself, am I speaking to prove a point or to contribute meaningfully to the conversation? Am I truly listening to the other person, or am I waiting for my turn to speak? By approaching each conversation with the mindset that we have something to learn, we embody the Stoic principle of humility. What if your next conversation wasn't about being right, but about understanding? How might this shift in mindset change the way you interact with others? Next, let's explore how people who speak less create space for others, fostering deeper connections and empathy. 9. They encourage others to speak. One of the most admirable traits of people who speak less is their ability to create space for others in conversations. Their silence is not about withholding, but about offering others the opportunity to share, express, and be heard. This trait reflects a deep empathy and a desire to connect on a more meaningful level. But how often do we, in our fast-paced lives, truly give others the space to speak? Think about the last time you were in a conversation where someone truly listened to you, where you weren't interrupted, where your thoughts were valued, and where you felt understood. How did that make you feel? Now, imagine being the person who creates that space for others. This is the power of speaking less and listening more. It's not just about controlling your own words, it's about making room for others to express theirs. In Stoicism, empathy is a key virtue. The Stoics believed in the interconnectedness of all people and the importance of understanding others. By allowing others to speak, we practice this empathy in a very practical way. We acknowledge their value as individuals, and we show that their thoughts and feelings matter. This doesn't just benefit the other person, it enriches the conversation as a whole, leading to greater understanding and deeper connections. But how does encouraging others to speak fit into the broader Stoic philosophy? At its heart, Stoicism is about living in harmony with nature, with reason, and with our fellow human beings. Creating space for others to speak aligns with these principles, as it fosters harmony in relationships and helps us gain a more balanced perspective. When we speak less, we listen more, and in listening, we learn. We learn about the experiences, insights, and emotions of others, which in turn broadens our own understanding of the world. This is particularly powerful in situations where tension is high or conflict arises. In such moments, our natural instinct might be to argue our point, to assert our position, or to defend ourselves. But what if, instead, we paused and allowed the other person to fully express themselves? What if we made the conscious choice to listen first, before responding? People who speak less often practice this form of patience and restraint. They know that by encouraging others to speak, they create a space for resolution, understanding, and even healing. But let's take this idea one step further. What if we not only encouraged others to speak, but also actively engaged with their words? What if we responded not with rebuttals, but with questions that invite deeper exploration and reflection? In doing so, we move from surface-level conversations to dialogues that foster growth, both for ourselves and for the person we're speaking with. This is the essence of Stoic communication: speaking and listening with purpose, intention, and empathy. So how can you start encouraging others to speak more in your conversations? It begins with presence. Be fully present in the conversation without distractions, and show that you are genuinely interested in what the other person has to say. Ask open-ended questions that invite them to share more. And most importantly, resist the urge to interrupt or dominate the conversation. By doing so, you not only practice the Stoic virtue of empathy, but you also create deeper, more meaningful connections. What might happen if, in your next conversation, you focused less on what you want to say and more on what the other person has to share? What insights and connections might you discover? As we move forward, let's explore another key trait that those who speak less possess: a heightened sense of observation. 10. They are highly observant. People who speak less are often highly observant. Their silence allows them to notice details that others might overlook: body language, tone of voice, the unspoken dynamics of a conversation. This ability to observe stems from their practice of listening more and talking less. But how does observation play into the broader Stoic philosophy, and why is it so valuable? Stoicism teaches us to pay attention to the world around us, to live in the present moment, and to observe life with clarity and purpose. Observation is a skill that sharpens our understanding of ourselves and others. For those who speak less, observation becomes a tool for navigating social interactions, understanding emotions, and making thoughtful decisions. When we are not focused on what we're going to say next, we have the mental space to truly see what's happening around us. Have you ever noticed how much you can learn from someone just by observing their body language? Their posture, their facial expressions, and their gestures often reveal more than their words ever could. People who speak less understand this. They are attuned to these subtleties, which allows them to gain insights into others' feelings, motivations, and thoughts. This heightened sense of awareness is a powerful asset in personal relationships, professional settings, and even in self-reflection. But observation isn't just about noticing others, it's also about observing ourselves. The Stoics emphasized the importance of self-awareness, knowing our strengths, weaknesses, and tendencies. People who speak less are often more in tune with their own emotions and reactions because they take the time to observe themselves in silence. This self-observation allows them to respond to situations with greater wisdom and intention. Observation also helps us distinguish between what is within our control and what is not, an essential Stoic principle. By observing a situation carefully, we can identify what aspects are beyond our influence and what actions we can take to make a positive impact. This clarity is what enables Stoics to act with purpose and avoid wasting energy on things they cannot change. Think about a recent situation where you reacted impulsively. How might things have been different if you had taken a moment to observe the situation before responding? Observation allows us to pause, reflect, and choose our actions with care. It's a practice that leads to better decision-making and a more balanced, Stoic approach to life. But how can we cultivate this skill of observation? It begins with mindfulness. In your daily life, practice paying attention to the details around you, how people interact, the environment you're in, and your own internal state. When you're in a conversation, focus not just on the words being spoken, but on the emotions and intentions behind those words. And when you're faced with a decision, take a moment to observe the situation from all angles before acting. What might you discover if you observed more and spoke less? How could this practice of mindful observation change the way you navigate your relationships, your work, and your inner world? As we've explored, observation is a key trait of those who speak less, but it's just one part of a larger practice of thoughtful, intentional living, a practice rooted in Stoic principles. As we've journeyed through the 10 traits of people who speak less, we've uncovered a powerful truth. Silence is not passive, but purposeful. It is a tool that fosters deep listening, strategic thinking, inner peace, self-control, humility, empathy, and observation. These are the traits that define a Stoic approach to life, traits that help us navigate the world with wisdom, composure, and resilience. In a society that often values speaking over listening, we can learn a great deal from those who speak less. Their silence is a reflection of their strength, their ability to remain calm amidst chaos, and their commitment to living with intention. By embracing these traits, we too can cultivate a life of clarity and purpose, one where our words and actions align with our values. So, I encourage you to take these lessons into your own life. Practice the art of silence. Listen more. Speak with intention. Observe the world around you with curiosity and empathy. And remember, Stoicism isn't just about what you say or don't say. It's about how you live, how you respond to challenges, and how you find peace within yourself. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these traits resonates with you the most? How do you plan to apply the Stoic principles we've discussed to your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights are valuable, and together we can continue this journey towards Stoic wisdom. If you found value in this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with others who might benefit from these Stoic teachings. Your support helps grow our community of individuals committed to living with intention, wisdom, and virtue. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May you find strength in silence, clarity in stillness, and wisdom in every moment.